Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Casey and Jessica with you here today, and Gustav, who is laying right in front of me on the dining room table. Today we are talking about hidden sources of gluten. And this will also be in the gluten-free challenge too, if you guys decided to decide that you wanted to do that. So just another plug for that. It starts January 17th. And comment below, say you're in, and we'll get you set up in the Facebook group, and we'll send all the resources to you on January 10th. And basically, you have a support system, accountability to go gluten-free for 14 days. You'll learn, gosh, my phone is blowing up. You'll learn how to do it. You'll have a list of resources to do it, and you'll have access to Jessica and I all for free. So comment below, say you're in. And then on that note, we'll just introduce ourselves and get right into hidden sources of gluten in foods. So I am Casey. I'm sure it's weird that I'm just petting my cat right now.
As I'm adorable.
I am Casey Kephart. I am the founder of Nutrition with Casey and the host of the Facebook group Nutrition for Women with Autoimmune Disease. I work with women with all different types of autoimmune diseases, and I have a cat named Gustav and live in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'll hand it to you, Jessica.
Awesome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jessica Melnick. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, the founder of the Anti-Arthritis Method, and the host of the Happy Joints Arthritis Solutions group. So if you can tell by the name of my Facebook group and my program, I help people with all different forms of arthritis and just get back to, less pain, more mobility, more energy, and just getting back to living your life the way that you want to. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Jessica also has a cat, but he is not there right now. So cat ladies galore.
Yes.
Okay, so we got a list of all of the all of the ways gluten can hide in foods. And again, this will be a resource if you are in our gluten-free challenge as well. So we're kind of just going to go over the list. Goodbye. We're going to go over the list a little bit. We're not going to go over the whole thing just because it's really long, unfortunately for us, but we'll just dive right into it. So let me pull that up. Mm-hmm. Okay, so some of the things on this list is things that probably, at least in the States, we really don't eat unless we're very cultured with our eating. I don't know about Canada, so I'll go over some of the things here that are things that maybe we wouldn't think of. So salad dressings is probably one of my favorites to bring up, just because we think it's liquid, right? And usually when we think of gluten, we think breads and cakes and brownies, things like that. Salad dressings often do have wheat in it, so you want to make sure to go back into the ingredient label, which we're going to touch on ingredient labels today too, and see if it does contain wheat, rye, or barley. A lot of the thicker salad dressings do have wheat in it, but don't be surprised because soy sauce has wheat in it too. So as liquid as soy sauce is, don't eat it. Jessica, you can name a couple too.
Yeah, and I want to talk about a couple of ones that I was super surprised about because, for example, oats, like oatmeal, for example. So unless you actually have oats that say certified gluten-free on the package, you are getting traces of gluten or more than traces of gluten because a lot of gluten-free grains are processed in facilities that also process grains with gluten. So it's super, super important to make sure that you check the package. And if you're shopping, say, at like a bulk store, make sure that you ask if it's not clear, at the bin, what you're actually getting. So that one was huge for me. I had no idea. Like oats are gluten-free, right? So that's a huge one. I think, and things like barbecue sauce, like that's kind of like another like extension of the whole salad dressing thing. Like who would think that you would have like a flour in your barbecue sauce, but it's such a common thickener that's
Yeah.
used in so many condiments that you really have to look at the label. You really have to look. So those are two huge ones for me. I know you mentioned soy sauce as well, or
Yeah.
even like rice papers. Like we eat a lot of all sorts of foods here. Like the city I live in, Saskatoon, we have more restaurants per capita, I think, than like most cities in
Wow.
Canada. Like that's eating out is the profession for us. And so we have all sorts of restaurants, like very like various like many different cultures. And so Asian food is also huge here. And so, you know, Asian rice papers, like you think, well, this is a rice based food, and a lot of people who
Mhm.
are gluten free. I've had coworkers who are gluten free and have celiac disease. You know, they like, oh, well, let's have some sushi. You still have to be careful because sometimes rice papers even have gluten in it. So you have to ask.
Yeah, I've learned so much actually from asking if things are gluten free at restaurants. I'll just call ahead and say, "Hey, is your sushi gluten free?" And it's the oddest reasons why they're not gluten free. Because you would think, let's just say we're making sushi at home, you put your rice in your sushi maker, you chop up your sashimi and vegetables, and call it a day, and then get your gluten-free soy sauce. Well, they put, I think it was malt vinegar in the rice to flavor it a little bit. And because of that, every single piece of sushi is not gluten-free because of the malt vinegar. So I would just ask every time you are unsure, or even if you are sure, just for the hell of it, ask if it's gluten free. And I bet you more times than not, you will get some strange answer how they put gluten into their foods. So,
Yeah.
um, malt vinegar would be one of those hidden gluten sources for sure. And going back to the oatmeal thing, I say this all the time in my program and my business is I used to be an oatmeal aholic when I got diagnosed with celiac disease. I loved the taste of it, but it was just something so easy and convenient that I could eat that would fill me up just for like 2 hours. I can add whatever I wanted into it. And I had no idea. I was probably just still consuming gluten 4 times a day with each bowl of oatmeal I had.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder my stomach didn't feel great going gluten free, but that's a whole nother story on why it didn't feel great going gluten free either. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, just another thing to be aware of on the label of all of these items, you should see the seal of approval that it is gluten free, and it will be most times it's on the front, but it's kind of little. You'll have to look for it, and even sometimes it's on the back, so you'll have to do a good check for that.
Yeah.
Um, so another thing that was on the list, let's see here. Gravies, which does go back to the condiment things again. So just as a reminder, usually gluten is made to thicken things up. So if anything needs thickening, they're probably going to go to a wheat flour instead of a corn flour. So think about that next time you pick something off the shelf. Does this look thick? Does this look like it needs some thickening? I don't know, but
Yeah. If
that
you
would
add
be,
water to it, is this going to get thick? You
yeah,
know? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, on our list it says thickeners right here too, but that could be like all the gums and things, the xanthan gum and things that they use to thicken things as well. Um, Oh, pilafs containing orzo. So that is gluten right there. You would think that's a rice, but it's directly wheat, really. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
medications. Medications is a big one too. So whenever a doctor asks me if I have any allergies, usually people say like penicillin or any latex, any of that. I put gluten and dairy. So they'll know, hopefully they do their due diligence and check the medications, but they'll know to not put me on a medication that has a filler of wheat in there.
Yeah, and same with supplements too.
Hmm.
Same thing. You need to look, does it say gluten free on the packaging? Casey, can we just quickly go back to thickeners?
Yeah.
There's something you said about xanthan gum being a thickener. So yeah, there's gellan gum, and there's a few different ones that I often see, like for example, on like a carton of almond milk, for example, like those like nut-based milks, or even some of the coconut milks, the ones in the carton, that you get at the grocery store, the non-dairy milks.
Mhm.
So, do you know if xanthan gum or any of those gums contain gluten, or is that something totally different?
Yeah, I think that's something totally different. I haven't heard of them containing gluten because I'm pretty sure they have the seal of approval too of gluten free, even though it has like xanthan gum in it. So sorry, I don't want to say that xanthan gum is gluten. I was kind of just saying that those are some thickeners used to thicken things up.
Okay, that's
Um,
good to know. I just wanted to clarify that because I thought, oh
yeah,
shoot, like I consume those gums sometimes in those
yeah.
cartons of non-dairy milk. So yes, that's a really good thing to know.
Yeah, on our protocol though, I know a lot of thickeners aren't allowed, or any thickeners. I think it was like guar gum, and all of that. So just something to keep in mind too, that if you're still having troubles with your stomach, thickeners can upset that digestive process as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, all the other ones are pretty, oh, lunch meats. Lunch meats would be something that wouldn't catch the eye for gluten too.
Mhm.
They put flour in just literally everything. I wonder how much difference it would take if they didn't put flour in these things.
Yeah.
Um, it's a little ridiculous, but all the other ones are pretty, I would say self-explanable if you know what gluten is in general. So like croutons, wheat bread in general,
Mhm.
um, barley, which is gluten, beer. Beer might not be maybe obvious as we'd like to. I sometimes say I'm gluten free, and they'll be like, "Great, you want to go out for a beer?" And I said, "No, I'm gluten free. I can't go out for a beer." But just because that's barley. Um, Jessica, anything else to say on this list, really?
Yeah, one thing I think is really good to point out too is spice mixes, and
Mm,
sometimes even like sometimes you go to the grocery store and they have like baggies of like curry powder or chili powder. You have to look because sometimes they do have forms of gluten
yeah.
in there. I think part of it too, like I know cornstarches are often used, or maltodextrin is often used to keep them
Mhm.
powdery, like and so that they don't get clumpy. Um, but sometimes there's gluten in there too. So especially with like the spice, like the mixed spices. So you have to really look because sometimes you think you're just buying like turmeric, and but you
Right.
might be getting other stuff in there too, or sometimes steak spices or barbecue rubs and stuff like that. So yeah, you wouldn't necessarily think that you're like it's a spice.
Exactly. I've learned a lot from looking at ingredient labels in general, but definitely from the spices. I'm a huge lemon pepper aficionado, and I try to go to all of these places and find a good lemon pepper, and you will not believe how many things are in a simple thing of lemon pepper. There's carrots, there's onions, there's all of this other stuff, maltodextrin and thickeners. Um, all I want is lemon and I want pepper. Like it is just that's just the how food in general goes with me. I just want something simple with 3 ingredients in it and 20 come out of the ingredient label.
Yeah, you just
It's
don't want to have to dehydrate the lemon into a powder yourself.
right. I'm about to, let me tell you that, and just go full, like, make everything from scratch on my own because the food system has failed me, honestly.
Yes.
Which is the premise, I guess, of our programs in general, is that the food system has failed us, and that's why we're hurting and in pain.
Mhm.
So, I want to move on just a little bit and talk about some of the top foods that cross react with gluten in our body. So I've explained this before, but let me just explain it again. When we have a problem with gluten and when gluten gets digested in our bodies, our body makes antibodies towards the gluten molecule, which means every time gluten comes inside of us, our immune system is going to attack, 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 because it's a foreign invader in our body. But the body makes mistakes and the body is tired, just like a night shift worker would be. And the body starts tagging other foods that look like gluten. So they'll put that gluten antibody on another food molecule. And so when we digest that other food molecule that's not gluten, it will still attack because the body thinks it's gluten. So some of those foods that the body is thinking is gluten, which means it's cross-reacting with gluten, is nutritional yeast, brewers, bakers yeast. Corn is a big one. And gosh darn it, everything has corn in it, I feel like.
Amen.
Um, some dairy proteins, so casein, casomorphin, butyrylfolin, I cannot say these words, and whey protein. Casein and whey are the top two that we hear about all the time. My cat's finally.
And lactose too. That's a big one.
Yeah, so dairy in general, very cross-reactive with gluten. Instant coffee, which is interesting why it has to be instant, but they're putting something in it, obviously. Millet, oats, which we just talked about being cross-reactive. It's a big one. Potatoes, rice, and sorghum. So if you're digesting these things or consuming these things on the daily and you've gone gluten-free, I would encourage you to look at this list and maybe start looking at your ingredient labels and cutting these things out, and you may start to feel a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like who would think, right? You're
Right.
like, oh, I'm doing so good. This is all gluten free. So this cross reactivity, though, is it guaranteed to happen? Like,
No.
No, okay.
No, it's not guaranteed. And I think it really depends on how severe you are with your celiac disease or how severe you are with your non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So some people can intake corn with no problem. I don't seem to have a problem with corn, but oats will get me from today till next week. So um, it depends what your body tagged as a foreign invader, unfortunately. Yeah. And digestive enzymes can really help with breaking these molecules down if you cannot break it down well enough, or you're starting to get that bloating, the gas, the indigestion, things like that. Digestive enzymes can really help there. And there's gluten specific ones too to help with that.
Yes. Yeah, those come in handy. And I'm sure, like myself, Casey, you use digestive enzymes as part of your program too.
Yeah.
And that's something that I find is really, really helpful for my clients and
Yeah.
really helpful for me too.
Yeah, because as we get older, our enzymes start to not produce as much. So even just with regular age and not even being an autoimmune person, we'll need digestive enzymes. It's just how the body works. So super important. And if you're not on digestive enzymes, I'd talk to somebody about it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Do you want to hop into ingredient labels?
Yeah, for sure. So ingredient labels. Now, I know we talked about this the other day about how we need to look past just that little section on the label that tells us, how many fat grams, how many calories, how much sugar or fiber or carbs. Now that it's important to an extent, but what's more important is actually looking at the ingredients list. That's the key thing that is really, really important to look for when you are going gluten-free or just wanting to improve your eating.
Mm-hmm.
So just huge. You want to know what is actually in your food. So if there's this gigantic list of ingredients and you don't even know what half of them are and they're man-made ingredients, probably not something that you want to consume. And you also want to look at sugars. So there's so many different names for sugar. You want to see, is sugar one of the top 5 ingredients? If so, it's too much sugar. So things that are called just straight up sugar, cane sugar, things that are called glucose, fructose, anything ending in ose, corn syrup. So you want to look for stuff like that as well. So did you want to add to that, Casey, what else to look for on the label?
Yeah, so the first 3 ingredients on the ingredient label is the top 3 ingredients that are the most abundant in that product. So like Jessica just said, if you're looking at the top 5, and you're looking for just a healthy product, you want to make sure sugar is not in that top 5 because that would be very prevalent. It would just be a lot of sugar in that product. It's funny because I know this sounds pretty simple, checking an ingredient label, but it's not. And a lot of people don't know where to find the ingredient label. So I'll ask, my friend will say, does this look like a good product? And I say, send me a picture of the ingredient label. And she'll send me a picture, she, he, whoever it is, will send me a picture of the nutrition label. I honestly don't care how many freaking calories are in this product if you're trying to eat healthy. I don't. I don't care. What's important is the ingredient label right below that nutrition label. It will say ingredients, and then usually it has a paragraph, but we want like 5 ingredients in there. And that's what we care about. If it's gluten-free, we'll know it from the ingredient label. If it's a healthy product, we'll know it from the ingredient label. If it's sugar-free, if it's paleo, whatever you're doing, you need to find that out by the ingredient label. And especially if you're going on this journey with us of gluten-free or of the autoimmune protocol or whatever it is, you're going to know the ingredient labels of everything that you eat. That's for sure. So if you're doing this challenge with us, when you go grocery shopping, I want you to look at the label on every single product that you have. It's an easy sell. If you see that seal of approval of the gluten-free in there, or on the front of the package, then you don't have to look at the ingredient label unless you want a healthy gluten-free product, which we're going to talk about too, I think next week. So read the ingredient label. First thing, find the ingredient label if you don't know where it is. Look at the package, look where the nutrition label is, and look right under that usually.
Yeah, absolutely. Super, super important. And we hope too that the majority of the food that's going to be in your grocery cart doesn't have an ingredients label because it's a whole food. We want to definitely eat more of that. And you're just going to feel so much better, like the less ingredients you're consuming.
I so agree. And it's easier to pinpoint too than what's bugging you, because if you're like me, spinach will bug you and you're like, well, this is a whole food. I don't have to guess, was it spinach? Was it the oil they put in the spinach? Was it this? Was it that? I just know it's spinach because it's a whole food. But what's interesting now is a whole food is what seems like a whole food is not really a whole food anymore. It's like spinach with XYZ and xanthan gum in it and dextrose, and it's garlic and a minced garlic, but it also has dextrose and rancid oil in it and things like that. So I think what we're calling whole foods too really aren't whole foods now in general either. That's just my perspective.
Well, even I had a client point out to me, she on my program, and she was shopping and she was like, oh, I was like, well, potatoes, I like don't have gluten in them. And so she grabbed this bag of frozen like hash browns or like diced potatoes or something, thinking, oh, well, this would be really convenient. Just put it in a pan. And she's like, and then I remembered I need to look at the label. And she's like, I couldn't believe like it had all of these like inflammatory oils that you teach us about. It had like all these other additives and preservatives, and it had like a gluten coating of some sort. It didn't say gluten, but there's different words for gluten. And she's like, wow, I had no idea. She's like, before I would have just bought them and not thought twice, like just thinking it's just potatoes, right?
Right.
So some of that stuff you think is you're getting like a vegetable or a whatever, and you look at it and it's like, oh, look at all this stuff.
So the thing that still surprises me, like I look at ingredient labels on everything, every new thing that I buy, and every time I pick up a sweet potato, like frozen sweet potato fries, hoping that they don't have gluten in them, it's a 20 ingredient long ingredient list, and it has all the gluten in it. And I am just baffled every single time. Like, I guess I'll just make my own sweet potato fries because I can't get anything convenient that is healthy anymore, I feel like. And again, healthy, what is healthy for me, what is healthy for you, but still.
Mm-hmm. And like, thankfully, I know it's getting better, but I feel like it's still like decades in the making of having some of like more and more options for that are truly, truly actually nutritious and healthy for us that are convenience foods. It's just the reality, and it's just something that we have to learn how to navigate, and that's why we're doing this gluten-free challenge, because we know that it can be challenging, and we want to take out a lot of the questions for you. You want to make sure it's as easy as possible for you, and show you that you can do this. Like, you just need a little help from some people who went before you and who, been at this for a long time, and we can walk you through it and give you everything you need so that you can be successful.
Yeah, there's no shame in needing help or wanting help at all. You're going to get to your goal faster, and you're going to get to your goal with more clarity too. Even Jessica and I need our own accountability people for what we're going through. So don't feel shame in that. If you still haven't gotten into our challenge, there's still a lot of time. Hello. Sorry.
That's okay. He just wants to say hi.
Comment below, say I'm in. We'll send you the resources next week. We'll put you into the Facebook group. And if you have any questions about what we said today, or if you're still hesitant about going gluten-free, let's talk. Let's figure out why you're hesitant, if there's any barriers, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Hope to hear from you soon.
Bye.
Bye.